Hello and welcome to the first episode of News of the Week. Whole purpose of this kind of series is to essentially just give people a continuous rundown of what's going on predominantly with the CSGO and League of Legends scene. I will try and add a bit of Dota to there in the meantime as well, but obviously there's not much that goes on in the Dota scene, so it's a bit hard to kind of keep track of that. For the time being, obviously it's just going to be based upon information that happens within the scene as each week goes on and all new tournaments start up, so UK Masters, ESEA, ESL, etc. Then I'll try and give a continuous rundown of results and whatnot that happen, as well as any other news that is relevant to said scene. Right, so starting off obviously with Counter-Strike, we'll go straight into it. So the first bit of news is CEX Esports have made their roster changes. So it's seeing JD and Brody C have departed, and Smooya and Hems have come in to replace them. So obviously the whole lineup is now Rezu, Astro, Liam, and Smooya Hems. JD and Brody C apparently left the roster due to time commitments and them kind of not wanting to dedicate themselves, according to what Rezu has stated in the kind of article that was put out. It's an interesting one. I mean, I guess even they kind of agreed they did kind of underperform last event, and were expected to do better. So obviously, if that's kind of taking its toll on kind of JD and Brody in terms of mentality and whether they want to kind of do it or not, I guess. Smooya coming in, obviously everyone knows Smooya at this point. The firepower that he brings is insane. Obviously, he's played with CX and Rezu specifically before. So it'll be very interesting to see kind of how he then goes in and fits in. But everyone knows that that kid is an absolute beast in terms of some of the shots and whatnot that he can pull off, and consistently he can pull it off as well. Guess the issue's always been an attitude perspective, so hopefully that one can kind of go well and that whole lineup can prove themselves, and obviously in upcoming events and tournaments can kind of end up cementing themselves to be one of the top dogs. So it'd be very interesting. Obviously, good luck to them. Obviously, CEX as well. On a side note, apparently they are looking into moving on into other games as well. Which, bear in mind, the whole scale of what CEX are, definitely be an interesting one. So I guess keep an eye out on that one specifically. And now we'll be moving into the next bit. Secondly, Pickles and Lumji have left the X-Infuse lineup of Shiki and Shaney as well. There are various rumours as to where certain people are going to be going, and I guess I'll kind of touch on that to an extent in a bit as well. But until those roster moves have been confirmed, for me, there's not really much point in sprouting out. It's UKCS after all. Anything and everything can change in the space of 24 hours. However, for one reason or another, that roster didn't work out. As far as I'm aware, the Shiki Shaney duo is going to continue, and they are going to try and work a new roster out. So I guess it's going to be a wait and see, but it's a shame for that roster to kind of split up. Thirdly, one of the kind of highlights and better pieces of news, I guess, throughout Counter-Strike in the UK scene this week is going to be Team Xenix. They have kind of entered the world of CS again after the X kind of scum lineup with Jakey departed them recently. So they've decided to pick up Dog Gaming. So the legendary roster that is obviously Ash, Mezzy, Quiver, Debasa, and Yoshi. I think it's a good pickup. I mean, they've been looking for an organisation for a while. You're going to get some stability with Xenix backing them. Jamie Gizmo has obviously been in and around the scene for a while now, and being honest, I guess that's just one thing less for Dog to worry about in terms of funding Mezzy, essentially. And hopefully they can kind of just crack on from this point onwards and kind of continue the good form that they've had. Fourth bit of news, I guess, then. So, former Imperial lineup, so Jacob, Windansky, Boaster, and Connor. Essentially, obviously, they left Imperial for the new Bulgarian lineup that Imperial decided to pick up, which meant that roster was obviously August. And from this point, they then decided, well, they've then been picked up by XL. XL, I guess, haven't exactly had the best of run-ins in Counter-Strike in terms of since they've tried getting into it, and the various rosters they've had, for one reason or another, it hasn't quite worked out. So it'll be very interesting. The one kind of keynote of this roster change, though, was Reason did depart the lineup, and they have added Lazar, and obviously Lazar, former Endpoint player, as well as playing with the kind of ex-Bulldog lot as well. Very, very talented player, so hopefully the kind of stability that it all adds to them, because obviously playing under XL it does also mean that they will be playing in the Gfinity Elite Series, which on a side note was meant to be planned to start in late May. However, there's been various rumours anyway that it has been pushed back to July, so we will see a delay in that. But yeah, it's very, very good news for that lineup, I guess, going into things. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do, as they are a very talented bunch. Continuing on, the Zach D. Regan, Swaggy, Jamie James, and NK have decided to leave Nerd Rage. Apparently, it was just a breakdown in terms of the two parties essentially couldn't agree on where they were going and what the target should be, essentially, as far as I'm aware. However, since that roster did leave Nerd Rage, it has also meant that NK did leave the roster. So as far as I'm aware, they are looking for one as it currently stands. I mean, they have got some talented players in that roster, so it'll be good to see if they can get some stability and just kind of keep grinding the game out. And with regards to Nerd Rage, I guess it's another kind of not the most successful CS team, so we'll be interested to see what they do in the future and if they do come into UK CS again, I guess. Only other real thing touching on UK CSGO is going to be UK Masters, ESL and ESEA will all be starting up again soon, so it'll be very interesting. Like I said, I'll try and kind of within this weekly series post updates regarding all results that certain teams have, and then obviously any more future roster changes that do occur. Like I said, there is a lot more that is been going on roster wise. It's not really worth it for me to cover the kind of lower AM type teams, but within the kind of top 16 section I will try as much as possible. Obviously if I have missed any, then by all means let me know and I will try and make sure that it is maintained to a regular and concurrent status. Alright, so moving into League of Legends. Been an interesting one. I've personally tracked League for God knows how long now, UK scene wise as well, so it'll be good to try and, I guess, do a bit of content around it to an extent. There is a lot of bits ongoing that I'm probably not going to be too sure on, but obviously as each week goes on, hopefully the kind of quality of the content will kind of get better. But we will start off. So M&M continue to boot camp within their gaming house. So obviously for those that don't know, M&M did actually qualify or essentially get through to the Challenger Series qualifiers by obviously winning the ESL Premiership last season, which they beat Xenix in the finals. So from that, obviously for the qualifiers, M&M have been able to do really, really well for themselves. They managed to secure a gaming house for a boot camp essentially for 1 month. So obviously very, very good thing for them to happen, and hopefully that gives them the best chance as possible to do well in said qualifiers. So yeah, the lineup featuring Rifty, Candy Floss, Larson, Ludders, and Haddo. So it's an experienced lineup to an extent in terms of how much they've all kind of played within the UK scene at the very least. So it'd be very, very interesting to see how they do in the qualifiers. I do strongly recommend everyone go check out their social media. As M&M, to be fair, like I've said countless times already, they are one of the better organisations, if not the best, in terms of producing the content that they do. So having the opportunity to kind of do all this from a gaming house, get all their staff involved as well, the amount and quality of content should be really, really good coming from them. And kind of lingering on to another point, whenever these situations do happen and an organisation gets this opportunity and gets this chance, we genuinely need to support it as much as possible. At the end of the day, things do trickle downhill, so all it takes is one organisation to kind of initially reap those benefits, and it can roll its way down into other organisations, players and whatnot from that as well. So obviously, yeah, great job by M&M so far. Hopefully they can do well, and obviously I'll keep you updated if anything does kind of continue with that one. But I guess the overall big news, which has happened, I mean, to an extent fairly recently, but the qualifiers for it will be this evening. So the return of UK Masters for League of Legends. So I think UK Masters was there for League of Legends for the first season, and then now it's coming back, which I think is very, very good, to be fair, overall for the League of Legends scene. It adds another consistent tournament there. It adds another bit of money coming into the scene, and gives more people an opportunity. So I mean, touching on the qualifiers tonight, I think last time I checked there was 50 teams that had signed up. Obviously the quality of said teams is variable for sure, but it's still nice to see that amount of teams sign up for it so far. I'm guessing more will as well. But just to kind of do a quick little rundown, I guess, in terms of what rosters are doing what. From what I've seen, in a way, a lot of organisations aren't currently involved in it to an extent, especially if you're going off, say, like last season's ESL teams. You've got GLB Esports, who, as far as I'm aware, don't have a new confirmed roster. Team Zenex obviously came in the finals of last season's ESL Prem, do not have a lineup as it currently stands. So, I mean, I think two of their former members, so Prosper and Sankus, joined Arctic Storm alongside former M&M top player Sam Artorias. So that'll be an interesting one to see how that lineup performs for sure. Definitely some experienced and talented players in that lineup for Arctic Storm. So with the 3 UK players, it does enable them to obviously play in UK Masters and ESL Premiership. Excel also don't have a current confirmed lineup as far as I'm aware, so it will be interesting to see if they do come back into it. I highly assume they will. Enclave Gaming also have announced a new roster, so they've got Prelude in C in top lane, Nutri in jungle, Diva mid, Jokerism ADC, and Magne Johan support. Now, don't really know too much in terms of mid and support. Prelude, I think I've seen once or twice. Nutri and Jokerism obviously have various experience within the UK scene. Again, Nutri has been around for so long at this point. Jokerism has been around for a fair amount of time and obviously proved the talents that he has also. Cyclone GG have no confirmed lineup as it currently stands, and Bulldog also, they've kept Forks top and Jet in jungle from last season, and they've added Moon, Factulous and Raisins. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, I'd say, overall. Like I said, there's around 50 teams that have kind of signed up for the qualifiers already. The way I kind of interpret it, and obviously, in fairness, my ears aren't completely glued to the scene in terms of the knowledge that's coming my way for it, so it is a bit of a guess to an extent. Like I said, hopefully that will try and get more specific as the weeks go on. But I do, based upon from what I've spoke to organisations in the past and the way they treat League of Legends, I'm highly guessing the same thing is going to continue in terms of until those teams do qualify for UK Masters or ESL Prem. That's kind of when a lot of organisations then kind of pick up that confirmed roster. Because there are a lot of ifs and buts and hassles that do happen within the qualifiers, and especially when it's newly formed teams, which a lot of the time it is. So sometimes it is a bit risky for an organisation to kind of pick up one team that might not necessarily qualify against, obviously just waiting until the kind of qualifiers are finished and then taking one of the top 8 teams that have then qualified. So it'll be a very, very interesting one for League. Obviously, like I said, great news that UK Masters is back in it. Not much other news, I guess, in terms of the way of League of Legends for the time being. There might be, but I've probably missed it, knowing me. Pro scene wise, in fairness, the only kind of relevant UK news for League of Legends, I guess, is Max Law has joined Misfits, so obviously teaming up with Alfari again, who obviously played for Infused, or they played for Infused together. And to be fair, I used to watch a lot of those Infused games. I think it was like ESL Summer Split in 2015, I think they were playing together. And they, to be fair, the synergy between them was really good. Max Law obviously been an LCS under Giants, I think it is recently. So obviously now under Misfits, so it'd be great to see them two doing well together. But yeah, aside from that, I guess loads of roster moves and whatnot coming. All depends on qualifiers, but that will pretty much sum up the kind of weekly news for League of Legends at this moment in time. Right, finally, we move on to Dota. There's not really much I can say on Dota, to be fair, as much as I'd like to. In terms of lineups, in terms of organisations, there isn't really much to go on. Like lineups wise, there are various teams, but they do change quite frequently, and as always is the way of Dota, a lot of them are just kind of stacks for certain tournaments and events. I will praise one person, as much as it pains me to do it in dupes, in terms of the one thing that I think overall most people in UK Dota scene need to do, is at the end of the day, people moan about the lack of quality, lack of money, lack of tournaments. Like, by you turning up to tournaments, that is a show and a telltale sign of tournament organisers and everyone else kind of having more interest to support it if that does happen. So kind of in reference to what I was saying about dupes, in terms of he is trying to push as many teams to try and attend Epic LAN as possible. So it would be good if we can get like the kind of a minimum of 10-12 teams going onwards. That would be great. just to try and get a bit of consistency in the numbers, considering Epic is the only Dota LAN essentially available for UK organisations at the moment, or that occurs within the UK. So obviously, pull your finger out, Dota teams, attend the LAN, do well, stick with teams. Obviously, we'll see what happens. But aside from that, that is obviously going to be the news of the week. Like I said, I will try and be a lot more informative in terms of the information that comes up going forward. There are going to be certain bits that I'll miss. There are going to be certain bits that I'm just not going to put in because it's just pointless. But aside from that, obviously, I will see you the same time next week. Peace.